doing here? And I just wanted to do, a sit and talk of Yugioh series, because I recently finished Zexal, and I just wanted to talk about it. I don't know how I think I'm talking about like ranking the first 4 Yugioh series or something like that. But it's just mainly me talking about about Yugioh, because I just wanted to. Yugioh has always been a part of my childhood, as well as Pokemon. But which is kind of funny because when I say that Yu-Gi-Oh is a part of my childhood, because during the childhood I never technically ever finished the original. I've only seen like up to like part of season 5, I think, when I was a kid, and maybe like a tiny bit of GX. But then I saw maybe like the first season and part of season 2 of 5Ds. But then that was it. That was all I watched with my childhood for Yu-Gi-Oh. I'm also really glad that I have been coming back to watch all of them, because it's been really good. There are a lot of things that I liked in each of them. I'll slowly go over that. But first, let's do some, like I said in the video, some rankings. I'm ranking in two different ways. I'm gonna first rank it in the 4Kids version of them, and then just my overall ranking after. And with the 4Kids one, what I put in 4th place was GX. Overall, some of the voices I just didn't like. The dialogue was so bad, and I just didn't. I don't know. That first season it wasn't that good. It really wasn't that good of GX. Season 2, it got better. Season 3 and Season 4 are where GX really shines. Some people didn't like Season 4 because it was literal insanity, but I kind of liked that insanity. I like when something goes from something you think is like a nice, safe series becoming pure chaos by the end. And that's basically how GX was. It started off in a safe kind of storytelling, and then it kind of delved into more chaotic storytelling, especially, like I said, with Season 3 and Season 4. Funny enough, Season 4 when I'm thinking back, Season 4 kind of had a similar thing that Zexal kind of has, with different worlds fighting and such, but I'll get into that later. Continuing on with the rankings, number 3, I put the original Duel Monsters. And the reason I did that is because, it's good. It was my childhood. But taking off those, nostalgia goggles, you start to see some cracks in there. Especially when it comes to, like, cheating in the game. That's one thing I like to say, is that in the original, there was definitely more plot armor with some of the duels. Normally, I don't care about plot armor, but this is also an actual card game. So, later series kind of followed the rules a bit more. And yes, there was stuff in Zexal that was similar to the heart of the cards and such. But putting that aside, Duel Monsters, it's good in a storytelling way, but yeah, there are some cracks that you start to see if you take off your, nostalgia goggles and all that. And remember, this is just the 4Kids version. I don't think I've ever actually seen the original, like, subbed version of Duel Monsters, but there's also, like, I don't know, I'm leaving it there. Let's go to the next one. Number 2, I put 5Ds. And the reason I put it, normally, if you've seen how some of the other I've done previous videos talking about, like, GX and 5Ds, and I think it did one when I finished, like, the first half of Zexal. I always saying that 5Ds is my favorite out of the ones I've watched. But if we're talking about the 4Kids version, there's good and bad about it. The good thing is the voices were perfect. The voices for the 4Kids dubbed of 5Ds was perfect. The opening theme song, incredible, but they kind of fucked up by the end because of from what I've looked at, it had to do with like a lawsuit or something. I don't know. But the four kids dubbed kind of just broke apart because there were skipped episodes. They had to change dialogue to match what was only a part of the dub. And this is my advice if you're gonna watch 5Ds. Watch it dubbed up until you get to where they start skipping episodes, and then just watch it subbed all the rest of the way. Because they end up changing dialogue to match with the skipped episodes, because they meet characters in the skipped episodes. What was I talking about? The dubbed of 5Ds, yeah. Whenever they started talking, there was these new characters that came up in the skipped episodes, and whenever they meet them again in the dubbed, they act like they never met them. So, yeah, I think that's how that went. But yeah, so I've always said this with the 5Ds, 4Kids dubbed. It's the voices and the theme song, great, but the execution by the end, horrible. And my number one for the 4Kids version is, as you can already tell, Zexal. Because there was nothing that was skipped, unlike 5Ds, and the voices were pretty good. Honestly, not as good as 5Ds, but the main thing here is that nothing was skipped. There was barely anything that was censored, and if there was, you really wouldn't have noticed it. That's the next ranking, but I just really like how Zexal. I mean, there were definitely plenty of moments of it being probably like dragged down a little bit, but if we're just strictly talking the 4Kids version, it is definitely better than 5Ds. Also, the theme song. Also, it was the first Yu-Gi-Oh 4Kids that had a switch in the theme song, which I was pleasantly surprised about. And both songs are actually pretty good. Okay, next is the overall rank. My overall ranking of these four, and I'm going to tell you heads up. The second place is in a tie. There's two of them that are both in second place. I will get to that in a second, but I want to talk about what is the very low of overall. You can already tell what it is. It's going to be GX because it had such a slow start. It had a really slow start with season 1. That's mainly the reason it's at the bottom. The others, there was more to it at the beginning with the other three. GX, it was just really slow at the beginning. There were some episodes that were definitely not necessary. Some of them that probably aren't even, some of them that aren't technically even filler, but feel like they might be filler. Anyway, so, yeah, GX, the very bottom on both lists. Up next, number 2, I put Duel Monsters and Zexal. This also the reason I put them both together because I really couldn't decide which one I liked more overall, because it's really hard. It really is hard to take off the nostalgic huckles with Duel Monsters, because there's a lot of good moments I liked in the original Duel Monsters, but Zexal had a lot of great moments, just as many great moments as Duel Monsters, because ironically I find a lot of parallels between Duel Monsters and Zexal. One of the main things of it is we have a protagonist that is actually not the best at dueling. I don't know if you're like, oh, but what about Yami? But here's the thing, let me say this. Both of them had a protagonist and had someone helping them, guide them to be a better duelist. Duel Monsters had Yami / Atem, and Zexal had Astral. They were both guiding their protagonist to become a better duelist, teaching them new things and such, becoming basically like best friends. I know that's kind of weird with Duel Monsters because it's the same body. I know there's a lot of parallels with that. There's also parallels of like in Duel Monsters there's the heart of the cards. Then in Zexal there's Shining Draw, which is basically the same thing, essentially. Drawing the one card you need at that one moment. That's basically the same thing, except in Zexal, you see it. In Duel Monsters, you technically see it more, but in Zexal, when it starts to get to like the high up moments, it's like an actual power of of Astral World, an actual power that exists within this other world. In Duel Monsters, it's basically just considered plot armor. That's why I also don't consider in Zexal the Shining Draw as plot armor, because it's an actual power that is a part of this other world. In Duel Monsters, there's no other world. I mean, there's a Shadow Realm, but there's not this other world because it's technically like there's really no explanation for the heart of the cards for in Duel Monsters. But yeah, so that's where I put number 2. That's what I put at number 2. Anyway, on to the number 1 overall I ranked, which is, you can obviously already tell, it's 5Ds. And the reason I put 5Ds here because as number 1 for this, but number 2 for 4Kids, is because overall I just loved 5Ds. And I loved that plot twist at the end. I loved the plot twist at the end with Zone. I think his name was Zone or Z1 or something like that, being a future Yusei, or just being Yusei in general. And I just really loved that plot twist. And I think, and it's something that you can actually figure out for yourself through like different hints. Like there's so many hints throughout of who Zone really is. And I kind of hinted, and I was like, and I thought pretty early on, not early on in the whole thing, but early on when, like maybe like if, I don't know how many episodes before it was revealed, but I was able to figure it out before it was actually revealed. And I was just so proud of myself for that. But yeah, 5Ds has just like, the big reason I liked 5Ds overall is because it was less kid friendly in a way. Because it was this more gritty, darker atmosphere. And all the characters are just really, really good. I just really love all the characters. The Earthbound Immortals were just so good. Not to take anything away from Zexal and its number cards. Those were just really good, especially the one that was kind of like a giant satellite. I forget what number it was, but that one was really cool every time that showed up. Oh yeah, also let me mention one more thing about Zexal. There was a duel on the moon, if you could believe that. I mean, to be fair, it's talking about there's like these 3 different worlds of Earth, Astral, and Varian, and then having a duel on the moon. It really wouldn't seem that far-fetched for that one by the time you get to it. But it's still a really cool. It was a really cool thing that happened in Zexal. Anyway, back to 5Ds. 5Ds also introduced the concept of, dueling on a motorcycle, which I thought was just really cool. I really liked it. Alright, that's it. I just really wanted to do a video talking about my experience with all of these Yu-Gi-Oh series that I've slowly been watching. When am I going to start Arc 5, which I hear it has some interesting things about it. I don't know when I'm going to start Arc 5. Alright, if you enjoyed this, subscribe. I don't always do these videos anymore, but I just feel like it's something I would have to do with every Yu-Gi-Oh series I watch, because I've been doing it with GX and 5Ds, and like I said, there's the one of when I finish half of Zexal. Go check out some of the other videos that I'll have a video up here. Bye bye.